Hi, and welcome back to the Global Float series. I am so excited today to bring you Christa O'Leary. She's an incredible lady who I've actually met in person. We met in Hawaii back in November last year. And I'm just so thankful that you've joined us today.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is going to be a fun conversation. I'm already feeling that I'm going to learn something today. Um, but I want to give you her official bio so you know why you should be excited about this coming interview. So, Christa is an international best-selling Hay House author, interior designer, lifestyle curator, and mentor, and shows you how to create the ultimate environment to support your vision of the best version of your life. Christa helps you release overwhelm, create calm and peace in your life, reignite your inner spark, and have the abundance and success you deserve. She has been featured on CBS, Fox, NBC, and in many publications, including House Beautiful, Elle Decor, Veranda, Forbes, Customer Reports, and Health Magazine. Oh, this is going to be so amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Christa.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so psyched. This is fun, and it's one of my favorite subjects, so we're good.
Oh, amazing, amazing. So before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit more about your story and how you became a mentor and a Hay House author, which I am like so impressed by. Can you tell us a little bit more about your story?
Sure. Okay. So first of all, I will say that my story is kind of long. So
That's okay.
I'll just
Whatever you
I'll
need.
just give the brief sort of synopsis. But basically what happened was, well, to start, I was one of those children who was really curious to understand what made some people happy and others not. And it was always sort of my goal from a very, like literally I can remember at like 4 or 5 thinking to myself, like, I want to live on the side of the fence where the grass is green, as opposed to always looking over the fence, wishing that I was on the other side of the fence where it's green. So that's sort of, that was literally that was sort of a driving force in my life. So I ended up going to Boston College, studying human development and psychology. Didn't feel like I really got enough information there. Went on to graduate school in psychology. But around that same time, after I graduated graduate school, we started having a family. And my husband and I made the choice that I was actually going to take a step back for a little bit from my career in psychology because it was really heavy at the time. And so I took a step back, and we ended up having, the first child, and then the second child, and then the third child, and then the fourth child. And people would come into my home and they would be like, oh, your home is so beautiful and it's so serene, and how can it be so serene with all these children running every which way? Can you come do whatever you do in my home? So initially I'd go into people's homes, but then being Western educated, I was like, oh, I shouldn't go into people's homes and into their lives without having a real concrete understanding of what I'm doing. So that began my journey of anything related to house. Like, I was so passionate about and so excited about. So literally everything from universal design and green design and space clearing and Fung Shui and dowsing and color theory, and you name it, if it had something to do with a house, then I'm probably certified in it. And
I love that. I love it.
But it was great because it was like I had all of these tools in my toolbox. So when I would go into clients' homes, I could pull out all of these, either you could call them tools or you could call them lenses. It was a way to look at the environment in more of a holistic view versus like a typical interior designer who goes in and just wants to make the space pretty. Like, I would go I'd hear their stories, and I'd hear about their lives and like what their hopes and dreams were. And literally, as an interior designer, you almost become part of the family because you're in their inner sanctuary. And so I would learn all of these goals and dreams and aspirations, and it would make sense to me to set their environment up in such a way that they could realize those intentions and those hopes and those dreams. And so it just instinctively and naturally came to me to do that. And what I've eventually noticed was that my clients my interior design clients were having way better results than any of my other clients, my past clients in the psychological field, who had sat across from me on the couch and talked about their problems and issues, but then went back into their regular lives, back into their regular environments, and just got kind of, back into the flow or ungraceful flow of what was happening. And then they would come back the next week and we would just rehash and rehash and rehash. And I was actually working with these clients in an interior design way in their home environments or in their office spaces. And we were aligning what their dreams and aspirations were with their environment. I was able to set them up for success, and they blossomed. It was beautiful. So that's when Hay House, I signed contracts with Hay House and wrote a book that, psyched. It went international in 6 countries. So that was kind of fun. And, so it's just been it's been a blessing ever since. And so now we have different, what I call divisions of Home and Harmony. We have a whole interior design, commercial, residential. We stylize people's homes, home showcasing, which is super fun. But now I also work with groups and with private clients who want that mentorship in their lifestyle, and how can they use their environment to really set them up for success, and how to do it themselves versus, I can't necessarily get into everybody's homes to do it. So let me teach you, how to implement that for yourself.
Oh my goodness. I love all of this. It fascinates me. Before we dive a little bit further, this one question I'm asking everybody: what does flow mean to you? Just to set the context for the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, no, I love that. And that was one of the reasons that I, said yes to coming on and participating. And, I love you but I love the idea of flow as well. And, everything I talk about in the Home and Harmony community is about having graceful flow in one's life. And I believe at such a core level, I actually had a near-death experience when I had my firstborn. And from that experience, I, connected to source, whatever you call, source in your life, universe, God, whatever that is for you. But I connected to source and had this just amazing understanding of how we are spiritual beings living on planet Earth, if you will, and that life is supposed to flow with grace and ease. Like, does that mean you don't come up with challenges? No, that's part of the learning curve. It's part of the growing process. But even in those challenging moments, even in those learning experiences, if you can flow with grace and ease through those, then that's truly how we were meant to live life.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. I'm so curious about your near-death experience. I have a good friend who had one, and he was like just transformed by it. And I've heard a lot of, some of the big names. Actually, a guy yesterday had one. But Bren Burchard talks about his and how like it was such a change in his life. What else did that change for you? Like, it sounds like you're a very happy, optimistic person anyway. I think if you're wanting to live on the green grass side as a child, which I love. And I was like, hang on, both sides are green, right? I'm like, yeah. So did that experience change anything else for you? Like how you show up or your trust, or I don't know, like.
Yeah, no, it did. It showed up in so many ways. Well, first of all, when it happened, I was actually really young. When we had our first child, I was 24. So when it actually initially happened, it was almost too much to process for me at 24 years old. At the same time, trying to begin to raise my firstborn. So it was like I was going through this massive learning curve, trying to be a mommy. Like the other stuff was like, oh, that's way too much to deal with. Like, this is enough to deal with as it is. Like, forget about that, right? So it wasn't until years later where I was able to actually begin to fully process. But I think one of the things that it gave me was this sense of almost a sense of like security, a sense that, you know, we're supposed to be here in this time experiencing what we're experiencing, and that everything, you know, you hear that cliche, everything always happens for a reason. And I really, truly, I love that saying. I love saying that to my children. I love saying that to those that I teach. Like, it's all happening for a reason, and it's all going to work out in the most positive, beneficial way possible, even if it doesn't feel that way in the moment. You know, and then one great example I can give is actually from one of my children who at the time had been trying to get into this really elite prep school. And it was like her 7th grade year or something. And she was trying to get into this prep school, and she was devastated when she got the no. And she thought that was the place. She literally had like and you know, on paper, she had everything going for her. There was no reason why this wasn't going to happen. And I turned to her. We had like this very quick conversation, but it was profound enough where she actually years later said, "Mom, do you remember when you said this?" And I just said, you know, Claire, everything always happens for a reason. And I know so deep down in my heart that there's something so much better on the other side of this. So just hold on to that. And she did. And she was then recruited to play for like what they consider one of the Ivy League prep schools. She was asked to come play hockey for them. And which was like an even more like quadruple amazing experience. So I just really truly at my core know that we're all loved and these beautiful beings. And I think the other thing that it gave me was knowing that, again, because we're all these beautiful spiritual beings, that even if there's somebody in your life that might be more challenging than somebody else, at their core level, they actually are a beautiful spiritual being, and they might not be tapped into that essence, but it's in there, and they just haven't. They only are doing the best that they can do, knowing as much as they know. And if they knew more, they would do better.
Yeah, I have to remind myself of that a lot. I'm like, but if you do know better, then there's no excuse. No, I'm just kidding. But I love that. And what an amazing way to grow up, knowing that there's always a reason for everything, and that, you know, there's something better and there's a reason. I've only tapped into this later on in my life. And, you know, there's sometimes I have that frustration. I'm like, oh my God, imagine if I'd known this sooner. Like, I can't even imagine where I'd be. But then you remember that everything happened for a reason, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right, exactly.
And I had to go through all that to get here.
Yeah. No, it's a lot easier said than done. But, you know, again, with Claire, she's only a sophomore in high school at that amazing high school that she was invited to come play at. And she recently committed to play hockey for Harvard. So that experience would not have happened if she had gone to that other school. I mean, maybe it would have, but it might not have either. So
right.
It happens for a reason. And, you know, there's a bigger plan out there. We just maybe don't know it.
Wow. Well, congratulations to her. That's amazing. I know. I remember when you told me you told you, 4, I was like, you don't look old enough. Like, this is crazy. So that explains that. I love it. I love it. So I'm so fascinated by, and that's real reason I was like, I really wanted to have you on here. Well, for so many reasons, because you're lovely. But this a lot of the things I've talked about throughout all the interviews I've done over the last, you know, couple of weeks, it's all been about the inner stuff. It's all been inner, and, you know, which is fabulous. We've talked about all sorts of things, from femininity to spirituality and trust and forgiveness and time management, and so many different facets of this conversation about how to, you know, be your best and all the rest of it. And you know this, but we haven't talked about the outer reality. And I think I loved what you said when you were talking earlier about, you know, when we go back, we do all this work on our insides, and then we go back into the same situation, the same reality, and it kind of, do you think it undoes it? Are we just so conditioned in that environment that
we are? See, so so from my psychological background, like I was able to blend the environment and then the psychological aspects, which was interesting to me, because if you actually study Feng Shui, like a lot of those principles are exactly the same as the Western psychological principles and how the environment impacts you. It's just worded in different ways, right? So I do believe, I think it's fascinating. You were just talking about how you've been working or talking with a lot of experts about like the internal stuff. And I actually was doing a talk last night, a presentation last night, and I was explaining to the crowd that a lot of times, even when stuff is going on internally for you, sometimes that stuff will show up in your environment before you'll be even conscious that you have stuff going and swirling on in your head. And, I can give you a couple of examples of that. For me personally in my life, I know it clicks for me that I'm overwhelmed and I've taken on way too many projects when all of a sudden I have piles everywhere throughout my office. And so that's when all of a sudden I'll see the piles, and I know I don't like a disorganized environment, and I'll be like, oh God, I took on too many projects. And like I see it before I actually experience the feelings of it. And that happens for a lot of people, but the difference is that a lot of people don't have the awareness that their environment is actually a reflection of what's going on internally.
Yeah.
So let me give you another example that's an obvious example that we all know, that demonstrates that concept, that our environment is a reflection of what is going on internally. And that is, if you think of a typical teenager's room, right? And think about how many moms have said either, oh my gosh, it looks like a bomb went off in there, right? I know that I've said it to my kids. I know that my mom had said it to me when I was a teenager, and I know other moms who've said it. Like, it's out there. And in my presentation last night, like I showed this beautiful picture of a Pottery Barn teenage room that we all wish our kids had rooms that look like that. And that's just not reality. The reality is it literally everything is strewn everywhere. Well, if you think about what's going on for a teenager internally inside of themselves, between, the emotional, the psychological, the hormonal, those body changes, like the constant back and forth of who do I say yes to, who do I say no to, what are my boundaries, all of the different sporting things that they're involved in, extracurricular activities. Like, they have so much turmoil that's swirling, and where it shows up is in their environment. So you can use your environment as a cue to tell you what's actually going on internally for you. And at the same time, you can also shift what's going on internally by changing your environment. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if, for example, like think of your purse, open up your purse, and what's the inside of that purse look like? I don't know if you actually want to share that right now.
I did get a gorgeous new one the other day. So I chucked my old one out and got the new one, and it's beautiful right now.
Okay, good. Keep it that way.
But it's not, there's no sand in the bottom.
So my question would be though, like, how was that other one, right? And I invite your listeners to think about their purse. What is truly, how do they keep it? And when you open up that purse and you look inside that purse, connect to how that actually makes you feel. Like, do you, because again, most people open up the purse and they're not consciously aware of how that actually makes them feel, but when you look in that purse, realizing it, do you feel frustrated? Do you feel angry? Do you actually think poorly of yourself? Like, what are those emotions that are connected to probably the clutter you have going on in there and the frustration on not being able to find things, right? And then the second piece of that is that my guess is if your purse is filled with a little bit of clutter and stuff going on there, there are other spaces and external spaces that are similarly, made up. Like whether it's the drawer that looks like the inside of your purse, or the closet, or maybe an entire room, or maybe the entire house, right? So again, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So then all of a sudden you start to maybe clean up that purse, the inside, and organize it. And what you're telling me is you organize it and it feels pretty good, right?
Oh yeah. I'm like so happy with my new bag. I would actually go and get it and bring it and show you guys because I love it that much. But I'm not. I designed it myself. I'm like, it's amazing.
But that's exactly it. Like quote unquote, it excited you, right? So it lifted your energy. Like it brought happiness. So imagine if your entire space that you walked into nurtured and supported you. And that's the thing. Most people don't realize that your home environment or not even home environment, but any environment that you're in for an extended period of time, your home environment, your office environment, your environment either nurtures and supports you or depletes your energy. You either walk into your space and you think, I'm home, which feels so good. And that allows you to be rejuvenated. And in this frenetic culture that we live in, it's so important to have that rejuvenation, that revitalization, so that you can go out into the world and be the best that you can be. Versus if you walk into your home environment or office environment, you think, all that clutter, or the light bulb that needs to be changed, or that to-do list that has to be done. That drains you, it depletes you, it brings down your energy. So you're in that environment and you're not being supported, you're not being rejuvenated. So when you go back out into the world, you're back out there with half the gas in the tank. It doesn't feel the same. So, try to create an environment that's literally a docking station, similar to a docking station for an iPhone. That's how your home environment should be for you. And it has a ripple effect through every area of your life, be it, your relationship dynamics, your level of abundance, your level of happiness, it just has a ripple effect everywhere. So it's really important to make sure that home environment nurtures and supports you.
Oh my goodness. I love this. I was just thrown back to a moment. I love Tony Robbins, and I went to his Date with Destiny a couple of years ago, and he did this hilarious thing. He was sort of explaining the difference between men and women, and we went and grabbed like 5 giant handbags from women in the audience, and then like 5 wallets from men, and he's going through these handbags, and he's like, plastic bag, another plastic bag, a lemon, and we had all of this weird, he's like, an apple core, like he had all of this stuff in these handbags of these women, right? And he was pulling them out, and he's like, another bag, a bag within a bag, and we have so much stuff. And then he's like, a purse, another purse, an umbrella, and there's so much crammed into these women's handbags. And then he pulls out a guy's wallet, and he's like, credit card, don't, throws it away. And he's like, credit card, condom, throws that one away.
Oh, no.
And it was just the difference between the women. We had so much stuff, and the men lived so simply. Is there like a giant difference? Like, does that create a big change? Like, is there a big difference between men and women? And if women have these like crammed handbags and men walk about with a wallet and that's it, like, what is that about?
So I think that probably comes down to just literally the physical space that's there, because I think a fairer comparison would be, let's say, someone's car or someone's closet where they typically store their, versus the women's closet. So I think that that's a really more of a fair thing, because quite honestly, I designed both, couples homes, men's homes, and women's homes. And I don't see a big disparity in terms of the amount of stuff that any of the sexes have. And I think that, unfortunately, I think it's just it's a cultural thing where we live in this culture in today's day and age where we're in this disposable culture. So it's so easy to bring things in that we don't tend, we bring them in thinking unconsciously that, okay, I'm going to have this for a certain amount of time and then I'll be done with it. But that be done with it stage never happens, and we never get rid of it. So it's this constant bringing in and not releasing. So when you're talking about flow, there isn't a flow. It's like it flows in and then boom, it stops. And so when you have that puts up barriers, it puts up blocks in your life. So you can't be as successful in your life as you can't live the best version of your vision for your life doing it that way.
Wow. Okay. I move a lot, and I'm nomadic at the moment, and I actually think it's really helped me because I'm not in any place for too long, and I don't have tons of stuff, and I'm consciously thinking every time I go to buy something, I'm like, I'm gonna have to carry this around the world with me. Do I want to do that?
That's great. That's awesome.
Or do I want to put it in storage? So I'm being so much, I'm much more conscious. I'm clearing out a lot, and it feels amazing. It feels so good, and it becomes addictive, I think. What do you? Right?
Absolutely. No, I can relate. We've our house was destroyed 2 years ago in ice dams and then a subsequent flooding. So we had to tear it down to like the studs. And in that process, we had, obviously we had to move all of our things out of the house. And as we did that, we just got rid of a ton of stuff. And now 2 years later, we're about to move back in. And our thought process is, gosh, all that stuff that's been in storage that we really haven't used, like we never anticipated we would be out of the house for 2 years. So we thought that it would be like a 6-month thing and then we'd be back. But now I'm like, God, we haven't used that stuff in 2 years. We don't really need it. So let's bring a big dumpster to the storage unit and pull everything out that we don't want to bring back into our home, and let's just simplify. So it's kind of exciting. And even the space that we moved into in the interim is a much smaller space than what we usually have. And so we couldn't even bring in the typical amount. And that's kind of been a blessing as well. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a great way to live.
I don't know if I can do it long term, but it's where I'm at the moment, and it's been fun. But what would be? I'm sure there's a few people like, oh my gosh, my house is either a mess or it doesn't reflect who I am or what I want to create. What are some of the steps, maybe, first of all, to know how to align it with who you are? And then, what are some of the easy ways that we could start aligning ourselves with our environment?
Absolutely. I love that question. That's a really, really great question. So, there's a couple of things. First of all, I think it's really important to connect with what your big vision is for your life, for your home. Connect to what that big vision is, and that should give you direction in terms of how your home should be aligned. For example, I had a client, actually it was a very high-powered lawyer, and his environment did not align whatsoever with him, and it was actually very out of balance, where he was super successful, he was super abundant in his life, but there were other areas that were not balancing. They weren't flowing as well. And so he came into the environment, and we did an entire renovation on his house and totally designing it top to bottom. And what we created for him, he was this power player outside of his house, and it didn't match that inside interior in the interior. So we changed his whole space and we aligned it, and we made it a very masculine, powerful, awesome, chic space. And he really sort of stepped into that. He embodied that. And then, so when he went out into the world, he showed up differently. And because of that, he ended up attracting the love of his life, who he's now been married to for a number of years. And literally, it was like a quick transformation. Like, we finished the house, and then he met his future wife, 6 months later, because it was like everything finally like all came into alignment and into balance. But what it is, what is that for your life? What is that big vision that you have for the best version of your life? Figure that out, tune into that. And then how is your home environment going to support that? There was a great article in Architectural Digest about Rob Lowe, and it had a beautiful spread of his Santa Barbara home. And what he explained was, he lives this very, again, frenetic lifestyle, right? And he's always on the go and always glammed up and doing, and he wanted an environment that was going to be casual, where it was a recharging station for him. And he envisioned the idea where dogs would be running through, his kids could come rollerblading through the kitchen, like all of that. And so, which made sense. So fortunately, he had a designer who connected to that vision, and they created a space that it was okay to rollerblade through a kitchen. They didn't put in dark hardwood floors that would get all scratched up. So again, it's really important to, first of all, really target in on the big vision that you have. And then what I always share with my clients that I think is so important is, like, that big vision might feel way too big for you. Like, I don't know, maybe your big vision is to be like the next Tony Robbins, but that might feel really, really, really big right now. Yeah. But what I always tell my clients is, break it down into such tiny little pieces. So if one of your things is that you want to get more organized and declutter and do all of that, like, don't think that you're going to be able to declutter all your closets in one weekend. It's not going to, yes, you absolutely technically could do it, but are you going to exhaust yourself? Are you going to really feel good as you're doing it? Is it going to just completely overwhelm you? Probably. So instead, break it down into these little tiny manageable steps to get you from the point A of where you are to the point B of where you want to be. Because I really truly believe, again, this is just part of the Home and Harmony community philosophy, is that everything should have a simple solution. Because things are not simple, we will not implement. Right. So make it as simple as possible.
Okay. I love that. I'm writing it down. Okay. I'm taking a lot of notes. We won't implement. Okay. Okay. I love that.
You need to get the book, Joanna.
I will. I will. I've actually went out and I've got a couple of K authors, and I bought all the books, and I'm like speed reading through them, trying to do that before all the interviews.
Oh, you're cute. Oh.
I'm trying, but I was like, I've got like too many books to get through. I will get it. I love that. I've actually found when I've had like a big shift, or I'm packing up and I'm leaving, I can't do a whole wardrobe in a day. Like I do like 4 pieces, and I'll do 3 tomorrow and 4 the next day, because it felt like too much in one go. Like, they're all collecting in a big bag in the corner to go to the charity shop, but I couldn't put them all in there in one go. I had to like let go slowly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that, because for you that flowed with ease and grace, and that's the most important thing is that it flows with ease and grace. Like, again, we're not meant to struggle and have massive hardship through things like that. Like, that's supposed to flow with ease and grace.
Yeah, and just doing it a little bit, or even when every time I pack up in a hotel room, I try and leave something behind. Like, I'm like, I don't know why that is. I'm like, I don't know. Probably because I have so much luggage. I'm always trying to leave one.
My husband wishes I did that.
It's good. I promise. It helps. But I'm so curious about some of the ways. Well, I'm curious about all of them, really. But what would some of the key ways to increase the abundance, for instance, in your environment? Like, how would you do that?
I mean, I think to start, again, I go back to the idea that we really live in a culture where we're always constantly bringing things in. And because we're bringing things in and we're not releasing those things, it literally just blocks the natural flow of any type of abundance in our life. So really, the first suggestion I would have for anybody is to allow there to be release in your life as well. So, at maybe just taking, one or two things every day and releasing those one or two things every day.
Okay.
But, over a month's time, you've released a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that then allows space for those new, beautiful experiences to come into your life, whether they're, new relationships, a level of abundance monetarily, whatever that is, it allows that flow to happen.
Okay. So we're making more space for it to come in. Okay. That makes sense. And you talked about your office and the piles of paper. I guess it's really important to have a clear office space. Obviously, most of the people listening are, female entrepreneurs or in that space or looking to start a business. Like, is there some way, what else can we do in our offices to make them set up for success?
There's so many. Where does one begin?
Sorry, that was probably a massive loaded question.
It was a little loaded. Well, no. So, I mean, there are so many things to consider, but I think the fundamental thing that is, that I can't express enough, and hopefully from what we've already talked about, your community will begin to notice how their environment actually impacts them on a psychological level, on a physiological level, because that's what happens. Our environments, impact us, impact our emotions. They impact, how our bodies feel, and they impact us psychologically as well. So the first and foremost is, I would love it today if everybody, after they listen to this, they step outside of their office space, and then they walk through with this new lens. Like, hopefully I've given them a new lens to look through and look at the office space and just really connect to the feelings that it's bringing up. Like, do you really love your space? Because if you really love your space, then it's nurturing and supporting you. But perhaps as you look around that space, you realize that it's not nurturing and supporting you. And if it's not, if there are feelings like, I don't love the color, or, I don't love that chair, or, the window treatments are 10 years old. Like, if those feelings are coming up, that actually inhibits you in being the best that you can be. And because part of your brain, let's say you have clutter on your desk, part of your brain, especially where we're wired as females, we can't turn off our attention to that. Until we clear that, part of our brain is always focused on that. So on an unconscious level, our brain is literally, it's like a wire is connected to that. And it doesn't matter if we're actually sitting at our desk or if we're 100 miles driving away, part of our brain is turned on thinking about the fact that I have to deal with that clutter. Well, if part of your brain is thinking about dealing with that clutter, that means that part of your brain is not able to focus 100% on the tasks at hand. You're not able to be as creative because you're not able to use all parts of your brain. It literally impacts all areas, because obviously if you can't focus 100%, or if you're not as creative as you usually are, then your level of abundance isn't going to be the same as someone who is able to do all of those things the best that they can do.
Wow. That makes so much sense. Like, often if I know I've got a big task, I like run around and tidy up first. And then I think, am I procrastinating? Like, what am I doing? Like,
no.
Am I just putting it off?
That's how our brains are wired as females. Like, that's something just innately. It's like the whole nesting mechanism in our brains. And then, there are other things to start to think about as well. And this would be like a whole series on just this alone. But like, colors impact us in such a massive way. And because we have colors that are on our walls, like the color of our furniture, like there's just color swirling all around, it's really important to begin to understand before choosing colors whether or not they are, first of all, beneficial for you as the individual, but then there are also certain colors that can support whatever type of field you're in. So for example, right now you're doing this type of podcast interview series. And so for something like this, the color yellow helps when someone's trying to articulate and to communicate. So you might want to include yellow, right? They've done, and literally all this stuff is documented. They've done studies and statistics on it. Again, I'm Western educated, so everything has to have like concrete proof for me.
Yeah.
So like the color red, whether it's somebody's home environment or their office environment, like if they decide that they want to include the color red, I'm going to ask a lot of questions before I suggest to somebody that that's a good idea, because the color red on a physiological level, so our bodies, it actually increases one's heart rate. Just by looking at the color, your heart rate increases. The color red stimulates hunger. So if you're somebody that has trouble with weight issues, I'm not going to recommend that we put a lot of red in your environment.
I'm like wearing a red top. I'm like, oh shit.
So again, there's so many aspects at play in terms of one's environment. But what I would ask your listeners after viewing this is just take a second today to walk out of your home or walk out of your office space, and then notice what you're thinking when you enter that space. If you are maybe outside of your home and you're coming in, what are those feelings as you're turning that doorknob and about to walk in? Are you thinking to yourself, I'm home? Or are you thinking, oh, the clutter and the light bulb and the to-dos? Just begin to notice those things, because that will begin to connect you with your environment and how it's really showing up for you.
Oh, I love that.
Whether it's supporting you and whether it's aligned with your big vision.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, my head is like going, oh, I do that, like in different areas, and what I do. It's like when I go on holiday, I have to leave a really tidy bedroom to go on holiday, because part of me knows I don't want to worry about if I come back and it's a mess. So, Perfect. Like, I was just thinking, oh, I probably do that so as I enjoy my holiday more, and I don't have to worry about it.
Absolutely.
That's so interesting. So interesting. I'm gonna just have to have a really good think. But one of the things at the moment was like, it's like wherever I needed to be for the 3 months, because I'm busy and I'm doing this series, and I was like, I need to be somewhere where I love my office space. Like, that was a really important thing, and I found it. I managed to manifest a place, and I was like, I really do love it. So I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But I didn't realize I had no concept. And I see so many entrepreneurs, clients, and I started out on my dining room table, and the kitchen was in the background. And I remember somebody asking me, they were like, is that support, like, what are you really running here? Are you running a proper business? And I was like, it's a great day. Like, my dining room table was huge, but I had like piles of paper all over the place, and I was like, kind of like, oh. And I actually ended up moving house to get an office just for myself. Like,
perfect.
I realized how important it was. And now obviously that doesn't exist anymore because I'm nomadic, but it was, I think there's a lot of people, I hear clients as well telling me that they're not taking their business seriously, or it doesn't feel like a real business, or, and things like that. And now I feel like I'm going to follow up with, what's your desk look like? Because I've never asked that. Like, it's never occurred to me, but I feel like if it's, shoved in a corner in the living room, or, in the kitchen, or if they are at their dining room table, like I was, like, does that feel like you're taking your business seriously? Like, I mean, it's cool,
Absolutely.
obviously, to get started. We all got to do it, right? But,
and the worst place that you can put your office space when you're sort of in that position of not having enough space in one's home is to put it in your bedroom. That's that again, especially, well, for everybody really, but the last thing you see before you go to sleep should just be a serene space. And the first place that you wake up in the morning, as you wake up, again, should be something serene. Like, you don't want to wake up and see your desk and immediately think about all the to-dos that have to go along with work.
Got it. I love that. And just to sort of connect this for a sec, because you can't be in flow and concentrating on your task, or if you have all of this stuff going on. So it makes so much sense. And yeah, you're really making me think. And now I'm considering changing my shirt for my next interview.
You're cute.
I'm like, do I have time? Am I going to be hungry today? Like, I'm also like so curious. I feel like I'm going to go up and start researching this stuff. And it's so.
No, just read the book.
Or read your book.
Research is there.
It's done, right? Like, you're like, okay, that's exactly what we're going to do. So where can people find you and your book? Because obviously I can help you.
So the book.
I love it. I forget that you have written a book. I think it's fabulous. I'm like,
thank you. So the book can be found on Amazon, actually, either Amazon or Hay House, and it's called Home in Harmony: Designing an Inspired Life. Yeah. And then my website is Christa O'Leary, ChristaOleary.com. And I know that I have a free gift for your audience. And I'm really actually excited about this because we are about to actually differentiate. This is what I call a harmony kit. And it has 4 different things in it. Everything from a downloadable meditation, to a wallet-sized toxin card that you can stick in your wallet when you go to the grocery store, so you can cross-reference and make sure you don't bring in toxins to your home. So there's all sorts of fun things in that little harmony kit, and this is probably one of the last times we're going to offer the harmony kit, and then we're actually going to break it up into pieces. So yes, I'm very excited that I can do that for your audience, which is fun. So that, I believe, is at ChristaO'Leary.com/free kit /
gifts free kit. Well, that's the one we've got. I'll double check, but we'll have the link put right underneath this video. So yeah, definitely go find Christa, get the book. I will too. I'm probably just going to go and order this straight away. Because I don't need to go find the information. You've done that beautifully for us. It's sparking something in me, which is what I think I wanted to create with this, was awareness and interest and a curiosity and And that's exactly what it's done for me. And yeah, hopefully there's some people asking themselves some pretty interesting questions about what their space is like and whether it's supporting this big vision. So thank you so much for your time. And I know you have a very busy weekend and then you're jetting off to Puerto Rico on Sunday, and so I really appreciate you taking this time for us all.
Well, thank you for having me. This was a fun conversation.
Thanks so much.